What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. We have Carey, American Arbitrage. So many pseudonyms and synonyms on the internet. A lot of you people may know him. He has over 1 million followers across all the platforms. You've been around for a long time. I like to say you're half of the Trash to Cash podcast, and I let everyone else fight it out. Who is the other half? One of them doesn't count. You
Yeah,
have three
it's
college
Kevin.
degrees.
It's Kevin. It's
Yeah, you
Kevin.
have three college degrees, and by the end of this, everyone will fully understand you don't need a college degree to sell on
Nope,
eBay.
not
So,
at all. Not at all.
without further
I'm
ado,
wasting all
yep,
through.
we have Carey. Tell them a little bit about yourself. I guess how long you've been doing this, where they can find you, and you like to have fun. I like to have fun. People just know me as like the super serious eBay guy, but believe me, I can
You're
have fun.
actually you're actually moderately funny, and they don't give you any credit for it because you got to be serious tech,
Yeah,
pointing at things at Disneyland, telling people
that's
what
right.
it's worth. I love
That's
it.
right.
No, but I started reselling in 2011, about midway through 2011. I graduated college. A lot of people probably have heard the story. I graduated college. It was like deep in the recession, deep in
Mm-hmm.
that 2008 recession. And I was working, I don't know, all through college, I was just enjoying school. I loved school so much, but I wasn't taking work very seriously. So I was a 26, 27-year old working at In and Out, still with not the best work habits. So I got fired pretty quick after I graduated from college from In and Out, which I enjoyed, but it wasn't a serious job. So at that
Mm-hmm.
point, I'm like, I was going to go back and get my master's was my goal, and be a professor is what I wanted to do. And I was going to take a semester off, give or take. And before I got back for the fall semester of 2011 to go from my master's, I got into reselling on eBay. All the shows were popular: Pawn Stars, American Pickers, all that stuff. I had sold a few things that my mom had given me to sell just to make, I guess, some extra money. And I just got into it. I went all into it though. That's all how I've always been. I got really into learning about it. I was on YouTube at that time watching the two people, I think, period, that did anything about reselling on YouTube. There was a
Right,
guy
right.
named Redneck Picker who did he just talked about like garage sales, so it was pretty on
Mm-hmm.
brand for what we know nowadays. And another guy's name was Glendon Cameron. He's still around. He did a storage unit, just kind of like reviews and stuff. And that was the two guys I watched until it grew. And I learned a lot, and went to the thrift store as much as I humanly could, and opened up a store, did an auction house, did this ever since. Just always kind of changing a little bit with the times, and finding somewhere within the community that fit for what I like to do.
Absolutely. So, like, did you grow up like going into thrift stores? Like, how did you discover thrift stores and maybe there were opportunities there? I talked to a lot of people and they're like, "Oh, I grew up going to garage sales. My grandfather was like a junker, or my mom used to go thrifting." Like, how did you first get introduced to even the possibility of doing this?
I've thought about this a little bit, and I think it's sports cards. I think it's card shops as a kid, like
Oh, okay.
being aware of the value of stuff.
Yeah, nothing better than a card shop as like a fifth grader, dude.
Oh yeah, no, it was the best, man. And I was going in, and I was in Southern California in a place called Pomona. I had a friend that was my best friend was like 2 or 3 years older than me. I wasn't allowed to go off my cul-de-sac as a kid. Like I could run around, but I couldn't leave that area. So I
Right.
remember one time, like I knew the card shop was there. I'd bought some cards, opened some packs. I was looking at my Beckett, seeing what stuff was worth, putting stickers on the pages. So I knew how much my cards were worth.
Right.
And one time I don't know where I got this. It might have been my dad's. Like I found an Angels autograph baseball, and I couldn't leave my cul-de-sac. And this is probably the first time I was really entrepreneurial about flipping something. I didn't even realize it. I couldn't leave the cul-de-sac, but I somehow convinced my friend to do it for free and go take his bike down to the shop to sell the. I don't even think I offered him a part of the money. I just said, just go sell this. Get like, don't take less than $50. I don't know where I came up with that number. It wouldn't have even been worth that. And he came back like 2 hours later, and he's like, it's fake. It's
Oh,
really fake. It's facsimile. And I'm like, oh, I was devastated. I thought I was gonna, be super rich. I was just gonna go invest all that back into the card shop,
sure.
as they probably knew. But yeah, at that moment, I think that was one of the first signs that I was a reseller. My parents would do garage sales, and then I would ask to do my own garage sales afterwards.
Cool.
So I would be trying to sell my toys. We didn't go to the thrift much as a kid. In high school, I did for clothing. Like I'd love to go find like 80s, 70s and 80s clothing at that time, and just find weird stuff to wear to high school. Cause I was a theater kid. So I wanted to look different. So
So the baseball was like one of those facsimile printed baseballs. Those fooled
yeah, it was
every
one of
kid
the
in
ones
America.
that, yeah, every kid in the 90s was like, and it was the Angels, the 90s Angels. So, I mean, I had Tim Salmon and Chili Davis. It wasn't like the biggest,
Sure.
most valuable all to begin with, but I
Sure.
thought it was like $50. And I think I told him I was pretty firm on that number. It would have been great if I went, because I would have probably still tried to sell it. It was a good time.
That story almost started off as a kid on a cul-de-sac who took their dad's baseball. I thought you were going Sandlot route and you had like a Baby Ruth baseball that you were going to go in and get eaten by the beast. And James Earl Jones, he just passed away yesterday. Bless
Yeah,
his soul. But
that's piece.
all of that stuff, man, what a time to be alive back then. You
It
remember
was great.
card shops? And my dad used to pick us up on Friday. My parents weren't together. And the first place we would go to 7-Eleven, get a Slurpee. The second place we would go to the card shop. And we would get a couple packs of cards. My dad didn't make much money. We bought a couple, junk packs of cards and we would rip them open and you'd have Don Mattingly or like just worthless items. But it was the greatest time ever to just catch a Slurpee, look at some stuff. Dude, I remember I had a Rod Carew error card. Like that was the creme de la creme of my baseball card collection. I had that thing forever because my dad
That
used to
was the
tell me
80s and
about Rod
90s.
Carew. Yeah.
It was a lot about those error cards. That was a big like chase thing. Nowadays it's all the numbering and the
Mm-hmm.
autographs. Back then it was basically error cards or some cool Diamond King insert you might pick up in some packs.
Yeah. Like now it's like you said, the superfractors, the parallels, the numbers, the RPAs, the patches, the autographs, all of that kind of stuff. It still in 2024? Is cards still something like a dad and a son could do? Or is
Oh
it
yeah,
but
a
there's
hundred
so much
percent.
money to buy a pack and you get like three cards in the pack.
Here's the thing you learn about doing sports cards and pack opening is I feel like a lot of people say that about packs, and there are some super expensive packs. The problem is I think people want the most valuable cards, the one of ones and the high end LeBron autos or whatever in the
Yeah.
inexpensive packs. There's a
Yeah.
very big differentiation nowadays between what's obtainable in a high end and what's obtainable in a low end. I focus a lot on my channel on like going to a Walmart and buying retail,
Yeah. I
like
see
little
that. Yeah.
$20-$30 boxes, and the chances of getting high end cards in that are low, sometimes zero.
Sure.
But that's where people can go. Because when I was a kid, I was going to stores with my dad, and we weren't, not rich for sure. So I mean, I would remember getting triple play packs because they were 75 cents, and when I was a high schooler, I was still into cards, and $5 would be pretty crazy for me. And those were the high end packs.
Right.
Now high end packs are hundreds of dollars a pack, and boxes are thousands.
Or
But
like
there's
National
still,
Treasures comes in a damn suitcase. Like that's how
yeah,
high
it
end
does.
stuff
Yeah,
is.
it's insane. Yeah, the suitcase, they have all sorts of wild stuff nowadays. But there is still a low end. It's obviously higher
Cool.
because the inflation over time. But there is still Donruss and NBA hoops that you can get for under $10, and a lot of them you can get for $3, $4, $5 a pack for
Cool.
hobby. And if you're willing to get stuff from Walmart, you can get $2 a pack, $3 a pack. It's just the problem is with those, as far as like the hobby goes, is you have much less chance of getting really cool cards, which is what a lot of people are looking for.
Yeah,
There's less
absolutely.
set collectors and people just looking for a base card of Rod Carew or Don
Sure.
Mattingly anymore. People want
Yeah.
an autograph one of one superfractor. That's what
Yeah,
they
of
want.
course. But like you also see like on TikTok, social media, and we had Keen on the podcast, my buddy Keen. He
Keen, I
has
love
like
Keen.
this viral video of a couple million views where he's like getting after it, negotiating with like an 8-year-old. And like these kids at the card shows, like they know their stuff these days. So it's really amazing from that aspect where you say like that's where you learned a lot about reselling and the values and high and low and changing in markets. And like there are a lot of little kids that are like trading up, leveling up, maybe even using that to their advantage. Hey, I'm a
Oh
little
yeah.
kid. Will
Oh
you
yeah.
trade me up?
Straight
And
up
like
channels.
at the
Yeah,
end of the day, these dudes got
talented.
LeBron RPAs and they're like 12 years old.
Yeah. Hey, they're business people. They understand that that's something they can do. They can use being a kid to get better deals, and then
Mm-hmm.
they'll end up. I mean, there's some kids that come up to booths. I don't usually sell it at a booth, but people, yeah, they're the biggest sharks typically in the room, and it's good. I think to a certain degree, there's some value, especially if they're like with their parents when they're doing this. Like, there's some value to learning how to negotiate.
Yeah.
There's some value in understanding how to make deals, whether
Mm-hmm.
they end up reselling on the side or never reselling at all, it's all good life lessons
I
for
think
them,
so
I
too.
think.
It teaches you the market. Like the market is the market. And like if you buy a player that came off a triple double and then he injures and blows out his knee, like you've lost all of your money. And like that's an important lesson to learn when you're putting your money out there at stake. Like, it's the same thing like stocks, and it's the same thing like, taking a risk in business. I am a firm believer in that as well. You went to the National a couple of weeks ago. Was that your first time over there?
That was my first time at the National Card Convention at 40. They had a few in California when I was a kid, and I didn't realize they were a thing. And then my whole life as an adult, they've been on the East Coast,
Okay.
which has not been something that I couldn't justify it because I wasn't either reselling, or it wasn't a big enough part of my reselling journey at that point. But now with content allows me to justify a lot of stuff because I could make all sorts of fun videos about it and do what I love and make money doing that as well. So
I want to get into that portion a little bit too, because like social media and reselling, like some of it goes hand in hand. And like in this day and age of 2024, like social media is now like a business in itself. Like a portion of my business is social media. And I never thought in a million years a portion of my business would be social media. So like for you, you have 1 million people that follow you, subscribe to you across all the platforms. You're doing TikToks, you're on YouTube, you have your whatnot shows, and like all of this stuff like kind of is like a loop to get people either involved in your sales, because I see on your story and whatnot now has like the live auctions where they could last a day or a couple of days, and
yes,
you'll post and say, hey, this one is ending soon. You have tons of followers, and I'm sure that drives traffic to your business. So
100%.
what does social media play in your business these days? And you were kind of like an early adapter at this, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I started TikTok, I was lucky. Like I was saying, when I started watching YouTube in 2011, there was one or two people really, really,
Yeah.
really trying and being consistent. And when I started doing social media, thrift store stuff and garage sale stuff in 2019, there was maybe 6, 7 people who were really going at it, and there was not exactly what I wanted to see. A lot of the all I thought was it was simple. Like I just need to figure out how to make a YouTube video in 20 seconds. Like how do I get to the gist of it? Look what I found. It's worth this much. Peace out. At first, if you look at my early videos, which takes a while to scroll back, I have like 2,500 TikToks on the main account. It's just me going, hey, look out for this Build-A-Bear symbol on the paw of this plush. That might mean, that it's worth some money. This was $1. I should get 15 or $20. And that was
Mm-hmm.
the whole video. And then they became a little bit longer over time. But it's been a huge part of my business. I didn't realize, I had no clue how big of a part of my business it would become. First off, you're right. It is a business. There's
Yeah, it's a
definitely
business
months where it's
nowadays.
just as
Yeah.
big, if not bigger, than my actual reselling like money and income stream and everything, honestly. And that's the same for a lot of people who reach a certain level for sure. But it also, yeah, it's a loop. So like I can go on Instagram stories or I can talk about it on YouTube. I definitely see a bump when I do a card video before my card auction on like a Monday morning, and I do my card auction Monday evening. There's going to be people coming in using affiliate links. There's like so many little things you can do, and it's all part of the same thing. And I've been for years telling people I think everybody on some level should be on social media if they are reselling. Now if you want to go into the whole vlog route and become an influencer or whatever, that's on you. But you should at very least, I think, do like an Instagram, take some photos of what you're selling and buying, and let people know who you are and what your niche is. And I think it opens you up to, at the very least, a few sales here and there, or a few deals that may come your
Yeah.
way that wouldn't
True.
otherwise.
Yeah. So like if you don't do it, you get nothing. If you do it,
Yes.
there's potential to get sales or place yourself into deal flow. So like if I
Yes.
find a great collection of cards at the flea market, I'm not a card seller, but I'm also not a fool. I know my way around cards, but I could just send Carrie a message and I say, hey Carrie, these things are $100, and you go, wow, that's a grand slam home run. I'll give you $1,000, and then you can go and sell it for 5,000, whatever you want to do. But like you have branded yourself, positioned yourself as the person that is a card guy or a card seller. Just like for me, I've branded myself, positioned myself as someone that deals in clothes. I can facilitate a lot of clothes. So like if people come up on deals like a bunch of dead stock, maybe they don't deal with that kind of stuff. They can send me a message, and then that places me into the deal flow rather than for a large part of my business, and you know this, I was very incognito. I was under the radar. I did a podcast, didn't show my face. Like no one knew me, and I was like very under the radar. But like the benefits of putting yourself out there on social media, especially in 2024, and something I was minding my own business and I was scrolling through and I saw this guy who was a regular guy, heavy set guy, regular guy, and I'm like, you know what? I'm a regular guy. I'm not the most beautiful guy. I'm not the most fit guy in the world. And this guy is utilizing social media and he is building a brand and it is helping his business. And like maybe in 2019, you needed to be Miss America, you needed to be beautiful, you needed to be fit. But this day and age now, every single person has an opportunity to go on social media, tell their story, share their experiences, and grow their own personal brands to at least get their name out there. And like you said, in terms of selling stuff, but more importantly, it's getting yourself out there to try to get into the deal flow of these
Yeah,
other items because there's stuff everywhere. And sometimes people don't know what to do with it. But if I can call my buddy Arwen, he sells shoes. I can call Carrie, you sell cards. I can call all of these other people, and then that opens you up to so many more opportunities for your business.
100%, 100%. Like I've gone cross country 3 summers in a row now, doing picking across America or whatever. And there's a guy, Captain's Port in Lincoln, Nebraska, who I would have never met if it weren't for Instagram. And every time I go through, he's got like a tote of cool stuff. He doesn't
Nice.
like sporting clothing, so stuff that you and me would both like. So I'll get jerseys or starter jackets. I'll get like a tote every time I go through town at a price that's, way below what it should be. He knows he's hooked. He's basically understands profit margins that I would need. And he
Sure.
accommodates by picking up that stuff when he's at a garage sale for $5, but he doesn't really want it. And he just stacks it up for somebody like me or
Yeah.
that would come through. So it's awesome. And you get so many of those connections over time. And it really is the biggest, one of the biggest parts of this business. Cards, it's huge too, is like knowing different dealers, knowing different resellers, and just having a relationship with them, because they might not necessarily, they may have a lot of stuff already and they can't make deals on it per se, but if they know what you're looking for, like you're saying, next time they come across a awesome deal, they'll pick it up for you. They'll
Yeah.
make a little bit in between, and then you can go make your normal profit. It's that simple.
Absolutely. And like you said, like this guy sees a starter jacket. He's not a fool, but he doesn't sell starter jackets. They want $1 at a thrift store in Nebraska. I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Carrie will come through once a year and I'll just give him a tote and you can have every
And
starter
he'll make a
jacket for 10
profit on
bucks.
everything
Great.
he sells to me
Yeah.
too. He's going to make a profit as well. Everybody makes, in a
Mhm.
good situation in this business, I feel, is, sometimes there might be 2 or 3 layers of sales all the way up to the end buyer, the
Right.
user, the collector,
Yeah.
whatever. But if we're doing things right, every step of the rung of the ladder, everybody's making money all the way up to the end buyer.
I agree with you. And also inside of that, like in your niche, there's money to be made with the ultra high end national treasures. There's money to be made with that second tier of cards. There's money to be made on the third tier of cards. Like Keen, he spends a lot of time maybe in the dollar boxes, and he's built a great business off of maybe like this stuff that people are like they don't care about. But like he'll go in the dollar box and he'll find his 20s, his 30s, his 10s, his 15s. He'll throw them on whatnot. So like for me, I don't sell ultra high end luxury Louis Vuitton. I don't. I sell stuff that is like pretty much of everyday value. I have found my foothold, kind of found my niche in like this $20 to $30 price range. And it doesn't need to be the LeBron autograph. It just needs to be something where there's a disparity in the market with whoever you're getting it from. The guy at the dollar box, he's selling it for $1. You pick them out, you put them on your platform, you do the mechanical portion of listing it or running the show, and then you can make a profit. And a lot of times on Whatnot, you're selling it, and the person that buys on Whatnot can then flip it and still make a profit
Yeah.
after that.
I
So,
would
like,
say, yeah,
yeah,
I
go
would
ahead.
say 70% of the sales I have on Whatnot are me just facilitating an eBay sale in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're getting a good enough deal that they're going to be able to flip that on eBay. Now, of course, I could do the same thing, but it's time. My goal with, I mean, like in business is always changing. I'm always a big proponent of evolving and adapting. It's almost a joke on the podcast at this point, but like I've been really focusing a lot lately on moving stuff as fast as humanly possible. And the only thing I have to do on my part to make that possible is buy at the right price. As long as I'm buying right, I'm not overpaying. I should be able to move my stuff on an auction, whether it's an anytime auction, which allows me to take a picture and give it 3 days to get enough buyers to look at it, or do a 20-second, quick whatnot auction, or, some other avenues as well. If I am doing that correct and I'm buying right, I can make a little bit on the margin. And then the person buying it can go put it on wherever they want, or maybe hold on to it, hoping it goes up. Because
Sure.
that's a whole different aspect of sports cards is people,
The
I don't love
speculating and
investing so
stuff.
much in cards, but a lot of people love that,
Yeah.
the speculating. And at the right price, most people are willing to take a stab at something.
Sure. How has the anytime auction helped your business on Whatnot? Because that's kind of a new feature.
It is. I love it. I love it. I love, first off, it's been pretty similar to eBay. It's not that much different. So one thing I'm not is afraid to try something new when it comes to reselling. I've had nothing but success in my life just going for things, and I'm not. There's definitely, like, the first round I did was a lot of old stock, dead stock stuff that I've had, so sunk cost stuff. So did I make profit? Probably not on a lot of that stuff, but a lot of that stuff was sitting and not going to get any money out of it. This I just recently went to a card show and I'm kind of doing my first round of cards where I actually bought with the anytime auction in mind. And they're hit and miss. Some do well, some you lose on. There's also an interesting, so I'm building that up, and I'm willing to take a little time and not make a huge profit initially so that I could learn the platform. This is something I remember doing when Mercari came out. And I'm not a huge fan of Mercari, but when Mercari started coming out in like 15, 16, and I got into it, I would price stuff. I didn't even care if I made money per se at the very beginning. I wanted to learn how the process worked. I wanted to go, okay, this priced here at this location on Mercari will sell fast. Okay, now I just have to find this item cheaper than what I bought it for, because I wasn't
Sure.
initially intending to sell it on Mercari. So it's all give and take, ebb and flow. But I've actually been pleasantly surprised on how much traffic there is on the cards and how well some of them have done. And I think it's marginally because of who I am and not necessarily entirely. I think there's not a lot of people doing it. So there
Mm,
is a market for people putting quality cards. I've seen some people who struggle to sell stuff doing it, but they're not putting up decent stuff. So that's
yeah.
a whole nother aspect. And that's one thing I learned from Keen is Keen will just throw stuff up and risk it and just go, I trust the market and I trust the fact that I bought it at the right price and we're going to let the market. But he's going to sell everything. He's going to get, he's going to learn real quick what worked and what didn't. And he's not going to have like I do right now, trying to get rid of a bunch of bulk stuff.
So a lot of people they like the allure of Whatnot, which is fast money, and in
Yeah.
some instances easier money because you don't have to take a photo, you don't have to list it, you don't have to store it. There's not as much customer service involved. You show it, it sells. So a lot of people like that allure, and it is very enticing. So how do you balance the faster money? But faster money is never all of the money. The faster
Yeah.
money is like the actual like cash value, where like more of
Yeah.
a not fire sale price, but it's not full retail. So
Yeah.
but you can build a beautiful business around that. It just requires a little bit more volume. So maybe you'll do a card show of 100 cards, and you got to sell 100 to make like the kind of money that you want to make. But the only business model across reselling that doesn't work is low volume, low margin. So if the margin
Yeah.
is going to be smaller, then we have to increase our volume a little bit. So
100%.
you've
100%.
done a lot of different marketplaces, eBay, like you said, Macari, whatnot. The allure of whatnot is very enticing. It's very fast, but a lot of people want fast and all the money. So
Yeah.
how do you balance running a respectful business where you have to obviously pay your bills and then also utilizing what whatnot offers?
Well, right now with like me going heavy on the whatnot auctions per se is a little bit just the moment too. I'm moving to Florida. I've took down all my cards. We're gonna restart on eBay with some cards when I arrive in Florida. So this is kind of like a fun time the next month or two just to experiment, to try different stuff. And I'm sure several of the things I'm doing are going to become a major part of my business long term. But basically what you want to do, like, and I primarily at the moment focus on cards. So if you buy, like, go to a card show and you buy 50, 100, 200 cards, there's some cards that you don't want to risk. Like I got a Bo Nix 1 of 1 autograph. I still don't feel comfortable enough to start that at $2. I spent up on that. So that's something you want to put at you want to put it like a buy it now. You can do buy it nows all over the place. You can do a buy it now on Whatnot. You can do a buy it now on Mercari. You could put it on your Instagram as you build that and make a facilitated deal that way. And obviously, eBay is the classical way that we all know,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those can work. So yeah, I definitely historically when I'm buying a lot is I try to make most of my purchase money, whatever. So if I spent $600, I want to make that back quick through Whatnot, whatever. And then all the extra is my profit, and I can either make more, and if I'm doing it right, I got a lot more profit on top of that. I could either get it fast through Whatnot, or we can piece it out with buy it now stuff. But yeah, you have to be thoughtful about it, a hundred
Yeah.
percent. And if I am like doing some hiring cards on Whatnot, for example, for $2, I also like to think of it as a marketing cost for me at this moment. Is if it did go a little bit under, hopefully it's getting people realizing that I'm going to be doing some good cards there. And I have a little bit of a different situation that I've built. I have a
Right,
following
right.
for people with sports cards.
We can't
So,
fault that because you've put the work in to do that. So like
yeah. So
that took
I'm
work
trying to
too.
build. There might be something that I can do at least a little bit quicker than somebody just starting to do. I could put some really good stuff on auction. People can get used to me doing that, and then I might be able to get premiums because of the work that I put in. But the thing about the work that I put in is you can do it too.
Yeah,
You can do it
sure.
too. People say
Yeah,
that all the time. Well, you have a following, you've done this. I'm like, I didn't have a following. I
yeah,
built a following. I remember it being 2019 watching Commonwealth Picker, people that I looked up to having huge followings, making money selling, and I didn't even have one. I had a business page for my old business, which had some following, which we mostly paid for at that time because that's how business,
yeah.
Instagram and Facebook worked at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays you could build a following like I don't believe I put $1 into any of the stuff I've done. I've definitely made money from it, but I've never put $1 into anything like ad wise for my Instagrams, TikToks, anything.
So in 2024, if someone has no social media following or doesn't have anything for their business or their brand, what is like something simple that they could do to get started?
You need to so if first off figure out a name, something you like, something with picker, maybe Tekken, and then just don't do sports, Tekken something else. And just
Okay.
take a little bit of a text brand. That's what I would do. Or
Okay.
or arbitrage. There's not enough people doing arbitrage. There's like three other people. It's still
Arbitrage is hard to
available.
spell.
It is. It is. I just say Arbit Rage. It's really interesting when I'm going to the sports card stuff because I think to like the shows and trying to explain people how to spell it. It's even less known arbitrage in the even though everybody's doing
Yeah.
it in sports cards, they're
Yeah.
arbitraging it. It's less common of a term. Retail arbitrage helped it in our niche blow up a little bit so people know what it is. But I would suggest. I mean, the advice is always just to get started. Go to
Yeah.
TikTok, go to Instagram, open up an account, pick a name, and I would make something as soon as you possibly can. But at the very least, open it up, start it. That might be just a mental switch for you to say, I'm going to actually try this. And when I started doing TikTok, it was insane to me because I was just talking at that time. I had no editing. I had no real idea of what I should do. And then I honestly, literally stumbled upon something that worked. And I am with TikTok, especially, or short videos, if you guys are interested in that, it's just finding something that the algorithm likes and basically doing it forever. you
Right.
could, it's not a game of creativity. You can kind of try some stuff over time to add to it, but really it's like the people like certain things. And what I found with TikTok is the overall public, not just resellers. I stopped talking a lot about eBay on my videos because it's a little bit more nichey. I'm a treasure hunter. I want people to think of me as like a pirate going out and finding treasure. And that's relatable to a suburban mom in Kansas City that doesn't resell, but might want to try it on the side to make a little extra money. So I would just get started. I mean, and I'm talking today, after you turn this off, maybe choose one site and open it up, make a quick video and realize it's not going to be very good and be okay with that.
Yeah, that's right. Be okay with it, and that's a learning. Like my first listing on eBay was not good, and I was okay with it. I listed and I got better, found ways to get better, and that's that. So as much as social media has a lot of benefits, it also has a lot of downsides as well. And like for Whatnot, there's a lot of benefits. How has Whatnot changed the landscape for cards in general? So they have a lot of breakers. They have the games, the gambling. They have what some people think like the big breakers get the best packs, the best cases, and they're getting all the hits. how has Whatnot changed the landscape of what you do? Because you have to compete with that also at the end of the day. And sometimes it doesn't matter what time of night I go on. If I go on there, it could be 2:30 in the morning. They got people running up $800 blind bidding on a team. It doesn't matter where you are, who you are. And these people are on there $25 million a day, maybe just $800 for spots. Bang, bang,
Backyard
bang,
breaks,
bang.
those guys, and they have 7, 8, 10 Whatnot channels doing it at the same
Right.
time. What the cool thing, like if you want to know what potential there is with Whatnot, just watch some of the card streamers, what they
Yeah.
end up doing, like with the breaks and the singles. Like you can, and a lot of people do this. I have no interest in it personally, but a lot of people end up hiring 5 people, 10 people, 20 people to run streams. They're buying endless amounts of products and they're going 24/7 on multiple channels. There's
Yeah.
Hobby Box Florida, Hobby Box NY, there's Backyard Breaks,
Backyard right
Backyard.
down the street from me.
A backyard's right down the street from you. I mean, there's a lot of people doing it, and what it's in the positive sense, what it's done is it's made a simple way for people to get involved in the breaks, which are kind of gambly. But a simple way. Before that, it was on eBay, and then you had to go to like a YouTube channel or Breaker
I
TV to
remember
watch it
that.
afterward.
I remember
And
that.
before that, like there was never really a live stream way to do it.
Yeah.
So TikTok, or sorry, Whatnot's found a way to make it simple for everybody to do. I personally don't. I like to get in breaks. As an adult, you can understand the risks and take them. I don't really like doing a ton of selling personally, where the person isn't getting exactly what they're paying for. Like when you're getting in a break, there's going to be times where you get skunked, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's been $100 to get the spot that might get a CJ Stroud autograph, but you don't get a CJ Stroud autograph, and then you end up
Right.
spending $100 for $10 worth of cards, possibly.
Yeah.
So it's not my favorite way to do selling, but I do enjoy buying it from time to time. There is a definite market for it. So what I'm a part of is what they call like the single card streams. I go in, I show you, much like a common regular auction. Here's a Bo Jackson rookie card, or here's a lot of 6 Bo Jackson rookie cards. Starting at 2, you guys pay me what you want to pay.
Yeah.
And hopefully I don't pay that much, and then I can make the margins in between, and you can decide to collect them or flip them yourself. But Whatnot, people, a lot of times I feel like a lot of people or don't like Whatnot that do eBay. And I understand it, but Whatnot is the whole live selling thing is not going anywhere. And I think Whatnot will be the main conduit of it for the future, but it may become another site. Who knows? I have no idea why eBay isn't investing more time into really making a legitimate competitor for it. It seems logical that it would be on eBay, but it's different than eBay. It's another way to make money. It's a different, slightly askew business model to sell stuff. And I think it would benefit a lot of people who are on eBay to take time and invest in it, honestly, because over time you could have both things going and you could be making more money or at least moving stuff that might be stale.
Yeah. I think Whatnot and live selling absolutely has its advantages. And then at the end of the day, the money is green, whether it's on Whatnot or eBay. And that's the most important part for everybody. So I think the reason why eBay has not jumped into it is because I think eBay has a lot to lose. They can't have a drunk guy with his shirt off cussing on ebay.com. Where
That is
Whatnot, you can go on a stream right now and you can find one of those guys, which, hey, no problem. So I think like there's a level of complexity to that, and also the music, like playing that music without paying royalties. Like one day, Whatnot's going to get a sternly worded letter from someone's attorney, and then they're going to have to pay the price for that. So I think since it is like the wild, wild west, I think that eBay is not in control of who's on the stream and what's happening. I mean, can you imagine something awful happening on
yeah,
ebay.com? That's a little bit
yeah,
different.
yeah.
And I think
Right.
that the
Good
gambling
point.
aspect is a little bit scary. And I think that the wild, wild west of the music playing without any sort of, because you can't play music on YouTube. You can't play
Yeah,
music anywhere, but on the streams, they're playing music. Someone should be and needs to get paid for that. And eventually
yeah,
somebody will figure out a way too.
yeah. And then you're right. That's 100. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to happen. It is the Wild West. It is interesting. Like people don't oftentimes realize they're in the Wild West
Yeah.
of a platform until they look back and, everybody talks about the Wild West of eBay
The
back in the
good
day.
old days, right?
The good old
Yeah.
days. People will probably do the same with Whatnot
Yeah.
as it grows and has to be a little bit more cautious. But they definitely, and they've done a lot already in the last couple of
They
years. They
have.
have to careful with the gambling aspect of it's not so much the brakes, but it's the duck races and the wheels. There's a lot of stuff that is sketchy, a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
like buying into raffle. There's a lot of stuff going on that technically you're not allowed to do. So
Yeah.
people have to be really, really careful with that long term, because if they're doing it now and getting away with it, it's not going to last forever at the very least.
If that's your business model and you're making money today, one day that's going to end. So like you need to
Yes.
figure out how to get good product and offer them at a good price because that business model is undefeated. Where spinning a wheel or pulling a number, once that ends, it's done. You're out of
There's
business essentially.
I don't know if you're aware of this, like huge trend right now in sports cards. It's called repacking. Have you heard of
Yeah.
repacking?
Yeah.
So repacking is where you basically go to wherever you're getting your product and you make these mystery packs that are
Mm-hmm.
100, 200, 500 a piece, and you have cards in there that might be worth 1,000, 10,000, but you also have cards that are worth 100 or $50, and
Yep.
then people are buying them at whatever price a piece, and that's huge. And there is some value to that because you can guarantee somebody is going to get, when you open a box, it's similar, but you're not guaranteed any value really. So you can
Yeah.
guarantee some value, but like that's going to need to be heavily regulated as time goes on, because a lot
Yeah.
of people game that where they don't
It's
ever
too
put the
easy.
high end card in. It's too
Yeah.
easy. There needs to be a
Carrie,
lot
pick
of,
number 45 and like,
oh
oh,
yeah, or they have
31.
their buddy, they know
Yeah.
their buddy bought something, so they pick the good. Yeah. So there's so much stuff, and I'm sure there's a ton of shenanigans going on with that. Allegedly, I have to
Where
say allegedly all the time.
wherever there's a lot of money involved, there's always going to be people that figure out how to game that system. And I guess like in the grand scheme of things in the sports card category and a lot of things on whatnot, like even between the platforms, there's a lot of jockeying for position on who's going to be the live selling platform, especially for cards. I know Fanatics has their own live stream and Fanatics, they bought Tops, right?
Yes, Fanatics bought Tops. Yes.
So Fanatics bought Tops. They control the product. How does Whatnot beat that? Where Fanatics owns the platform and owns the product, and Whatnot still needs to be viable.
Well, I mean, the only thing Tops can control is who they're giving the wholesale discounts to. For example, anybody could go buy it secondary market, at a card shop, the product. So the breaks could be a little bit more expensive on a Whatnot as opposed to a Fanatics, for example. But if you're putting a box up and you're starting at $2 or $3, it's going to go for whatever the market is anyway. So hopefully you could still get some product at the right price. So it is a big deal for breakers. I really have built my business model around the fact that I don't want to rely on Fanatics or Panini or anybody. If I want to go buy a box, it's probably because I'm going to make content about it and I'm going to make money off the content, and anything from the boxes
That you get
is
as a
gravy.
bonus.
My
Yeah.
business model is, and that's why I buy low end too, because I mean, I don't know if I'd love to buy like $10,000 boxes, but I might want to buy $300-400 boxes more if I could, but my content is not good enough yet to make me $300 or $400,
Mm-hmm.
in content revenue. So I'm making it doable for me to be profitable doing that. But yeah, Fanatics has started their thing. They're infiltrating. That's probably not the right word, but they are getting involved
They
in
are.
everything. They're getting involved in everything in the community. So they
Yeah.
recently bought
The clothes,
PWCC.
the uniforms,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, they do the clothes, the uniforms, and everything. They just bought PWCC, which is an auction house. This was like
Mm-hmm.
last year. So now like they have Fanatic, they just rebranded it to Fanatics Collects. So say you have a nice graded card worth $300 or $400, you can send it into them and they'll put it through their auction service. So it's a kind of like a higher end eBay service.
Mm-hmm.
Or Amazon FBA for higher end cards. You could do lower end, but it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fees, so you have to see if it's viable. But yeah, they're getting involved in everything. There's going to be, I'm imagining they're going to have buy it now functionality, and they probably do on
Sure.
Fanatics Collects. So they
Sure.
want to be involved in every piece of the business, from production to the secondary market to everything in between.
Yeah, I could just foresee a day where it's like, if you want to buy a box, you have to sign an exclusive contract to only break it on Fanatics. Like I can see that happening one day with how they're moving and how they're rolling because they got their hands in every single piece. And hey, that's America, so great on them. And if they could figure out how to make it work, good for them. So all right, so you went to the National for the very first time, and for the people that don't know what the National is, can you just explain it to someone who has no idea what the National is?
The National is a once a year convention, the biggest sports card convention in the world. It was in Cleveland this year. So you go and this year it was 5 straight days, 8, 9 hours a day of just having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dealers and companies there selling their product and their cards. And if you love sports cards like I do, it's kind of like a 5 day vacation to Disneyland. And
Yeah.
that's how I looked at it. It was in Cleveland this year. It's usually in Chicago. It's going to be in Chicago the next 3 years, but it's a big deal for the community. It was a big deal for me. It was my first one I'd ever been to, not only just for looking at cards to a little bit collect, but mostly I sell. And then also the whole content angle was huge for me this year because I do my channel stuff, and there was people, every card show nowadays, there's people with like camera crews following them around. But the National was insane with the amount of people filming and doing all sorts of cool stuff.
What was your favorite part about going there for the first time? Because we all have this imagination of like what it is. And my imagination, I've never been, is like just cases and dealers and like a $1 million card, a $2 million card. Like I saw that on social media where like people had these cases of like extremely expensive cards. So like what was your favorite part about being there?
Well, I mean, I was so exhausted going nonstop. Like I would go for when they opened, and I was on time. I was there in the morning. I'm not the biggest morning person till when they closed at 5 or 6, and then they would do trade nights, which
Okay.
is basically where people who don't buy booths, like don't spend $3,000 for a booth. You'll go
Mm-hmm.
down. We went in the basement of that place, and we would basically sell to each other for another 3 or 4 hours. I'd go home with Tim over the years sports, my buddy. You probably know Tim, and we would talk for a few hours, then I would edit. So I was going like 15 to
Oh,
18
that's a
hours a
day.
day
Yeah.
for like 5 straight days. It was pretty intense. And I was on like in the car driving 2 weeks before that. So I loved that whole experience. I was really nervous going into that. And there were some cool things I'm sure we'll talk about that happened at the National that were insane for me. But I really was proud of myself. Well, looking back on it, I was super nervous that I was going to make the most of this experience because I put a lot of pressure on myself. And particularly, and this might not be as interesting to some of the people talk about, resellers, but like the content angle, I wanted to make sure I could capture it as best as humanly possible. And I left it thinking I did. It wasn't the best work anybody's ever done, but it was the best I could do. And I was super excited about that. But there was just so many cards I could dig through boxes. And then I'm sure we'll talk about this a little. I opened up that one magical pack that
Go ahead.
Caitlin
Tell us the
Clark won.
story because I don't even know the full story. I just know kind of like second or third hand information. I'm familiar with what happened, but take us through like the very beginning. Oh, and you got to get a sip of coffee for this one. So this is going to be a good story. Take us through the
No,
very beginning, what happened, how it happened, all the way through what ended up happening a couple of days ago.
so let me give a little preface first of like what this is, what I opened, why I opened it. I have been a sports card fanatic, reselling, and before that, collecting since I was 7. 1990 was when I started. My brother gave me a shoebox full of 1990 Donruss and some football cards, and I sat on the green shag carpeting in his room and I went through it. I still remember it, and I've loved cards ever since, and it probably is why I got into reselling. So there's that, and when YouTube started getting more popular in the mid 2010s, I would watch. There was very little videos about the National Sports Card Convention, but one of the videos was people going through and showing you all the booths, and then I learned about these Panini and Topps National Silver Packs is what they're called. They're exclusive only there. They would open them, and then you go, "Oh, that's a numbered card, or this is a something you can only get at the show." It's like
Mm-hmm.
the companies produced it for the show. So I'd always wanted to open a pack or 20 if I could. So I always wanted to do it. We got there, we were busy filming content, making deals for 4 days. On the fifth day, it was Sunday, so it was mellow. I was going to be there all day, but I was actually not going to do a video that day. I gave myself a break, so I didn't have all that stress and pressure. So I was just kind of wandering around, having a good time, just kind of maybe more enjoying it than business the way it was the 4 days before. And I'm like, Dawn, I want to go buy one of these. I want to get one of these national exclusive packs. There's Topps and Panini. I think I wanted Topps, but to get them, there's two ways. You have to either buy a product from one of the booths that have the deal. So you go to Dave and Adams Cards and you buy a $200 box, and they'll give you a silver pack as well that you got to go get at the Topps booth. So I looked around, and the cheapest box was like a $90 blaster box of optic basketball. And you got one Panini pack, which wasn't the one I really wanted. I wanted the Topps one. And before that, I was just saying, I'll just buy one from a vendor because they buy a bunch of these boxes and get the silver packs and sell them for $40 a piece or something. I was thinking about doing that. And then Dawn told me not to. She's like, just go get a box, have fun with it. You'll make a video, like open the box, but you'll also open the pack. It'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And you've wanted to do it. So she convinced me to go get that box. I bought it. I walked up, and that's where the video kind of starts. I'm walking up, and the lady just handed me, I got one pack out of probably 30, 40,000 that were distributed. I don't know how many.
Wow.
I've seen videos of bigger card influencers opening 400 packs and not getting a one of one, basically.
Wow.
So there's so many weird things. The timing, it was 3 hours before the show ended on Sunday. People waited in line for hours to get those packs on the opening day. Okay. And I just wandered in the last second, very, very Carrie like of me, just showing up late. And I got there, and she was just working. She didn't seem very enthusiastic about what she was doing. They have to open up the box so that I guess you can't resell the box you bought from them. And then she had two packs in her hand and flipped them over and handed me the one on the bottom, which was just surreal
Oh,
thinking about it back, because it was just like a little thing she was doing, because probably just something fun to do to make it less monotonous what she was doing, right? So she was just kind of messing around. She
wow.
gave me the pack on the bottom, and then I went to and I had been opening product at the basically the Airbnb, and I'm like, Don, I want to open this one right now. Since I had a camera person, I usually don't have a camera person with my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So usually can't do that unless I set up somewhere. So since Don was there, I'm like, just over the shoulder, take a picture of me opening this.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping maybe for a $100 card if I was lucky, right? Like that would have been cool. It would have made the video better, right?
Yeah.
And then I opened it. It was the gold one of one, Caitlin Clark, literally the hottest player in sports, like the most
Period.
transacted player right now, period, in all sports.
Yeah.
Caitlin
Never mind
Clark,
women's
one of
sports, all sports.
all sports. She's the biggest thing going right now by far. Like I'd say by double right now at this exact moment. In a couple months, it'll change. It always does.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it was a one on one. I immediately knew it was good. I thought it was like a couple $1,000 good,
Explain one
which
of
was
one real
pretty
quick.
good.
Real quick, one of one.
Yeah, great point. One of one means it is the only copy in the world made.
That's
One
it.
of one.
Yep.
So it's a gold vinyl. They printed one. It was in that pack. There's no others that exist. So I got that. I was telling Dawn it was good. She was kind of surprised. There's another card behind it that was like Joel Embiid base card. And then Dawn was upset I only got two cards in the pack. And
Okay.
I'm like, Dawn, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're fine. We're good. So then
So,
I
so
went and
you
took it
had
around to my
no idea how
friends.
good this was at the time?
No, I thought it was a couple thousand. I knew it was a good pack, like
Maybe two
thousands of
thousand
dollars.
bucks, 3,000
Yeah,
bucks.
2000 raw, maybe. I took it around to my friends, and everybody's like 5,000 carry. That's like a $5,000 card raw. Maybe grade it. And I thought about doing a lot of things. So I took it to Golden, who has the
So
show.
so
They were,
raw is ungraded, and then you
yes,
can
yes,
submit it to companies like Beckett or PSA, and they will grade it based on the edges, the centering,
yes,
the
yes.
finish, and all of that stuff. And then you can get a grade out of 10. And the closer to 10 is pristine. And
Yes,
obviously, you want it closer to 10. If you get a one, you're in big trouble. So the
exactly.
decision is grade or not grade. So raw, they were talking about maybe up to 5,000.
Yeah, and a one of one, there's a lot of, since it's one of a kind, there's no competition. So a lot of people say don't grade it
Yeah,
because
there,
it
there,
doesn't matter.
there might not be any upside because if it grades bad, you've hurt your
You've
product,
actually
even though
hurt
it's a one on
yourself.
one.
Yeah.
Right.
So I took it in to Golden after some talk with my friends, and the Golden guys were impressed right away, and they wanted it, and they facilitated the grading on their end. I'd never graded through PSA. I've done cards forever, and I've used a couple companies, but I've never done anything with PSA. So they ended up sending that card in, and come to find out, like 6 days later, it got a PSA 10 perfect grade too, which is insane. So my only PSA submission, and it was done through somebody else ever, got a perfect 10. So that perfect storm, right? I got a PSA 10, one of one. It's going in the August Elite auction, which is their main monthly auction. And then Caitlin Clark in August and September, early September, has been just playing amazing. So everything worked out in my favor, timing wise. And it ended up ending in auction on Monday, I think, of last week, or it's been about a week, and it ended at 30. I got a little over $34,000 out the door from
Wow.
it. So, which is out of a free pack with a $90 box. So I paid 90 for a box. I might have paid $40 over what the box was worth. So you could say the card maybe cost me $40.
Wow. So once you got it graded, were people starting to tell you like, hey, this might be worth like 20 or
I
30,000 bucks,
started
or they
hearing
still had no
25,
idea?
30,000 pretty quickly because she was playing so well. First off, it was funny because I had the ungraded card there in my hand, shaking literally. Like people joke about that, like people get the shakes.
Yeah.
I'd never really had a beyond a me being theatrical experience with that. That was like literal. I was freaking out, like because I was nervous.
Yeah.
And then I went back to the booth that sold me the box. They gave me like a free one touch to put it in.
Little
Guys on
top
the left of
loader.
me were trying. Yeah, they just said, "Dude, put it in something, dude." Like everybody was trying to help me. The guy
Yeah.
next to me was trying to buy it probably for $100. Like he's like,
Oh,
"You want to sell it? You want to sell it?" I'm like, "No, dude. I don't care if this goes for nothing, but I'm not selling it for you.
yeah.
To you, I
Chill
want to
out for
find
a
out what it's
second.
worth." Yeah, dude. No, I'm not. I'm not that naive. No, I'm not selling it. And then I definitely had people in my DMs asking, and I just sent it to Golden to find out, and it did about as good as humanly possible. So
Yeah, and you're right. The timing is right. She's been on fire. She's been doing triple doubles. She had the 3 point record for the year, gonna be rookie of the year. So
without a
yeah,
doubt,
everything added up for this to be, an absolute home run. I mean, and Golden, he has had an auction house. He has a TV show. He specializes in very, very high end, like things like this. And he had some sort of acquisition or deal with eBay late last year, right?
yeah,
Or a couple
yeah.
of months ago.
eBay bought Golden. Yeah, eBay. I believe they purchased the Golden auctions. I think,
Yeah.
if I remember right, you're
And
right.
then
And
and
then
then they gave PWCC the Volt, I believe, and now
yeah,
PWCC is with Fanatics.
yeah, exactly. So they're all working together. So because eBay wants what Fanatics and PWCC, which is not PWCC anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they basically want what eBay wants, and I think they already have it. Is they want you to be able to send in your cards to their vault, and then you could basically have, say, you have 500 PSA cards. You can be like, oh, this. You could just have them storing it, kind of like
Yeah.
Amazon, but you don't necessarily have to have it for sale.
Right.
So you could just wait to the right moment. Okay, the baseball season's starting in 2 weeks. Let's auction off all our baseball. But you could
That's
leave it
right.
there for 3 or 4 months
Right.
securely, and everything. So that's a definite play. And the card market's very, very different than regular markets. I think
Yeah.
auctions are. It might be the only place in all of reselling that I would feel comfortable with, like eBay style, whatnot, anytime auction style auctions. It's still very
Yeah.
prevalent in the community, and the community is engaged enough where you can get decent values for things.
Yeah, and with Golden, he had the ultra high end auctions, and eBay loves nothing more than an ultra high end auction because that
Yeah,
final value fee on those is what eBay is
yeah,
looking for. And I think, like you said, like the Volt with sports cards, it's very interesting because let's say you have a Caitlin Clark card, and let's say we're a month or two in the future, and Caitlin Clark they win the WNBA title. Well, her card yesterday might be worth 100. They win the title, it might be worth 250. So if you have it in the vault, it is immediately for sale. You buy it, it immediately transfers ownership. And then maybe you
yes,
can even flip it for 350 rather than I list this item for sale. They won the championship, so I get the premium. You got to wait 7 to 10 days to get the card. And by the time 7 to 10 day happens, it might be back down to where it is. So, like, the vault allows for these ultra fast, almost pitch by pitch, swing by swing home run transactions where if someone hits a game winning walk off home run, maybe that card's worth $50 more and it allows you to make that ultra
very
transactions.
it's very
Yeah.
stock market like you could
Yeah.
literally, if you were paying attention, you could play that game, and you're
Yeah.
going to lose often too, so that's part of that game. But you can definitely be like, okay, Caitlin's playing
Mm-hmm.
this weekend, and she's playing the Chicago's
Big
Sky
game,
and
prime
Joe
time,
Reese. It's a big
NBC.
game, so I'll go buy this one, and then I
Right.
will stays in the vault unless you request it to be sent to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it stays
Mm-hmm.
in the vault. You just repost it at a higher price or at auction, however you want to do it,
Yeah.
and then you can immediately. It's a pretty cool market. It's
Pretty
definitely
cool.
different. Also, being said, if you're opening cards in general, you're going to lose money. You got to enjoy it. Like I got
Mm.
lucky with that pack, like
Oh,
extremely lucky.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
lose 90, and you go watch my card channel on the shorts and see how often my boxes are not worth what I
Yeah.
pay. So you got
Yeah.
to enjoy it or monetize it by making videos on
Mm-hmm.
it or something to make it worthwhile.
Yeah. Opening packs is a losing proposition. Opening boxes is a losing proposition. Speculating is risky. That's like the stock market. If
Yeah,
you
it's
think, hey,
risky.
this guy's in single A, I think he's going to be the next Ken Griffey Jr., and then he blows out his ACL or blows out his UCL, like this guy's done, you've lost all your money. Or they get arrested or in some kind of controversy, you lose all your money. So like the
Yeah.
speculation is hard, the breaking boxes isn't hard. I think the way that you do it is like the old faithful, hey, this is what I got. I listed for this. You can't lose too much inside of that.
In general,
So
yeah,
me,
I played the arbitrage game.
yeah,
So, and
I'm a
there's not
big
a
chicken.
lot of people talking about that in the sports car community. Typically, it's a lot of speculation talk, like this guy's
Mm-hmm.
hot right now or gonna be
Right.
hot. Nobody knows the future. But
No.
you go in those bargain boxes, there's a lot of dealers who have $10,000 cards, $15,000 cards, but
Right.
they also get in breaks and stuff, and they have a lot of $5 to $30 cards. They're not going to bother posting. It's not big enough for them
That's
to
right.
worry about. So they'll put $7 cards at $3, or
Yep.
five, $15 cards at $5. And people like me, and there's a lot of us, we'll go out there and
Yeah.
we'll buy those. We'll make those margins in between. But we're buying knowing that even if, hopefully we're going to make a profit almost, it's a lot
Right.
more reliable. I love to make a purchase where, like, if I do a buy it now, I'm going to do well. And I feel pretty confident that I have a chance to profit if I just throw it on an auction. You can't guarantee with auctions, but
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my business model.
And even though the margins are smaller, like you're saying, 3 to 7, but you could fit 100 cards into this, and that's
Yeah.
$400. So like
Yeah.
all of that stuff adds up in that game, and it's a little bit more volume based that approach. But if I was doing it, I would do that. I'm a big chicken. I'm not speculating on nothing. I'm not breaking open no box. I'm not doing it. I will buy the sure thing, and even if it's a little bit more time and effort to run more auctions, that's it. So at the National, was the Caitlin Clark, was that the chase card?
I mean, that was the interesting thing about that's one of the chase cards. Though there was like Victor Wembanyama one of ones, and some of
Okay,
the other bigger rookies like Jaden Daniels and stuff like that. There was also, this is where it gets confusing. There was several one of ones of Caitlin Clark, but just not of that variety, if that makes sense. So there
the
was one
goal.
in her Indiana Fevers jersey that was a black design, like kind of like shiny, that sold for a lot less because it wasn't great, and I don't think it was probably sent to the right location. There's a lot to be said with grading at times or where you sell an item. Yeah,
Yeah,
but and there might have been like a parallel. So there might have been 3 or 4 different varieties of a one of one, which is kind of confusing when you start to get into sports cards. But that was the
yeah.
only one of that variety, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, a long, long time ago in a different life of mine, I spent a lot of times on a baseball card forum, and I used to source on a baseball card forum because a lot of those guys, there's a little bit of a little bit of a gambler in their DNA. There is a little bit of I am a super collector where if something comes up, I need the money. And I used to be on the forum. I used to read it all the time. I grew up playing baseball. My son played baseball, and I made a post on one of these forums where I would buy all your old cell phones, all your iPods, all your old video games, all of your jackets, all of that. Dude, I made a fortune off of that post by saying, message me what you have. I'll give you cash today. And that way you could go out and you could buy the new product, the new box, the new Wimbenyama that came out. Sell me your
Clever.
old cell phone, sell me your starter jacket. I'm here. And I used to get all of that stuff and sell it on eBay. I sourced a tremendous amount that way back in the
Bet you
day. This
that's
probably
still
was 2010 when I was doing that.
bet you that's still viable in some, like, if you
Still
went to a
viable.
Disney pin collector Facebook group and you just been,
Yep.
hey guys, I'm looking for this kind of stuff. If you want, to get some
Yep.
funds to buy more pins.
Yep.
No, seriously, that's a brilliant idea,
I did
honestly.
that on baseball cord forums and I did that on the Nintendo Age forum where people are video game addicts. The new game comes out, send me your old games. Sell me your old systems. PS5 comes out, give me your PS4s.
Yeah.
I made a killing off of that, like in the
Probably give
early.
them a little better price than GameStop, I imagine,
Yeah,
and still
absolutely.
some
That's all
money.
you got to do. That's all you got to do. So, all right. So you made the big sale. What's next for Carrie? You said you're moving to Florida. The water is warm down here. I can confirm that. So what's
Oh yeah.
next? You got a big sale. You're coming off a big sale. Are you going to continue to chase that high, or you know it's one and done?
Oh, that's one and done. Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest, I mean, I might buy a little nicer box for fun, and I'm talking a couple $100. I might split a case with rod picking and punching of something I like that's not super, I might spend a little, maybe 5 or 6, 7, $800 on some more cards. But I'll film it. I'll get a lot of my money back on that
Mm-hmm.
through content. But yeah, no, that's rule number one, is you don't chase that high again. That was luck. I mean, next time I was talking to Don, I'm like, a lot of people would go to the next national and then they'd end up buying 400 of those packs. And if I went back and bought 400 packs, it wouldn't happen again. So I'll
Yeah.
buy a couple. I might buy one as like just a joke. Just I'm going to buy one again. Let's see what happens, and not get anything more, 99.99%. But
Hmm.
yeah, you can't. That's not. I mean, that was just fun, and I got lucky. Simple
Yeah.
as that.
Yeah. So you're in the Las Vegas or Utah area?
I was in Utah. I'm in Vegas now, and I'm
Okay.
heading out to your neck of the woods, give or take, a little
So
north of you.
you're moving up by Dave. Dude, Dave is crushing it. Whatever he's doing cooking, me and my wife, we watch that. We get sucked into Dave's cooking channel. Last night we watched
Oh, good.
Keto Dorito Cool Ranch. He's funny. He does a great job
Yeah,
on it. It is entertaining and it's highly produced. I love the overhead camera. He's doing a great
yeah,
job. So
yeah. He
like,
is.
and he's a great guy too. I saw him at Webster 2 weeks ago and I yucked it up with him. And then I watched your guy's podcast and he goes on there and talks about how sick he was. Here I am
Yeah, he
yucking
is
it up
way
with
sick.
Dave, and this guy was sick and we were this close to each other. I'm like, come on.
I think he had a food poisoning is I think what we
Okay, we're
did
safe.
what it was. I think it was thankfully not that. But yeah, I think he ended up getting some pretty bad food poisoning from something he had ate. But yeah, no, Dave's a great dude and super intelligent, a lot better picker than people give him credit for as well, honestly. But it's cool. You can watch the cooking channel, which is Cooking with Dave, and you can see kind of the culmination of years of learning how to make videos. And that's the
Oh
same
yeah.
with anything we do.
Yeah.
Like you becoming a better picker over years. People may see the end product for you, Tech, like all the
Yeah.
knowledge you have,
Yeah.
but they don't see you,
Every
basically
single day
15
for
years ago, like
yeah.
learning a new thing every day, making mistakes.
Yeah.
Like they don't see the growth that you did. They just see the end product, and that's what they're seeing on cooking. Dave did a lot of his growth on how to make videos, doing other videos before. So
Yeah.
he kind of came into that channel as a well developed creator, honestly.
Yeah. And he's doing like I pushed refresh on my screen. And by the time I went and got a drink and came back, the video had 6,000 more views. Like
Dude, it's insane.
crazy.
He got
And
recognized for the first time last week. I think it was at Disney as a food person. That's a huge deal.
wow.
Now I'm probably recognized more for being a card guy, believe it or not, than I am for my main channel. Probably because I hang out at card shops all the time. That's probably why. If I was at thrift stores, I'm not trying to do too many thrift stores right now, moving. But the card business needs to keep churning, and it's easy to move. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
What are you
no,
gonna do
Dave got
down here?
recognized.
Thrift or cards or flea markets and stuff?
I'm most excited for flea markets when I move out to Florida. I can't wait to like. I mean, I know it's going to probably be an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I know me and Don, we might try to hit Webster as much as humanly possible. But then, like, we were passing stuff in Florida where Dave's like, we don't even go to that flea market. It's not worth it. It's like the eighth or ninth best. I'm like, dude, I would kill for that one you don't want to go to in my area.
Sure.
We have one giant one in Vegas, and it's kind of more of like a family flea market. It's not a ton of vendors that do what I like. So like I love the flea market scene in Florida. And the cool thing with what I do is um, there should be a chance for me to get a sports card video for that channel and a regular video every time I
Oh
go
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of demand for flea market sports card content. I will get 2-3 times more views for flea market videos than I will a national video because there's less
Wow.
people doing it and there's a lot of demand. So
Cool. And
a
I know
lot of cool
Kevin comes down
content.
here pretty often. And then the old three amigos, you guys could just ravage the whole Central Florida, and you guys can just grab everything that is either made of plush or Pyrex or
I'm
uranium
looking
glass.
forward to interrupting one of your deals and just offering a little bit more, and we'll see how loyal your
Oh
people are. They'll see.
no, 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 no,
I'm just,
no.
I'm teasing you,
So Carrie's gonna make a video of a mountain of Lululemon. Yeah, that's gonna go great for you, Carrie. Your audience is gonna love that.
They're gonna love the Lululemon.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Yeah, no, the clothing people. I mean, you watch the history of my content, especially, and you could see me dabbling and my interest coming and
Mm-hmm.
going for that kind of stuff. And definitely like the t-shirt bros, they do not like me because like, I'm probably a bit of a poser if you want to be honest. Like I do understand the market,
Yeah.
but I'm not as interested or passionate as they are.
Right. But
It's
if you
just
see a single stitch 1986
yeah, and I'm
Metallica
gonna be
Monsters of
excited about
Rock,
it too.
yeah, you're picking it up.
And I'm making a video about it. So
Yeah.
they're gonna see the video. There's a chance they'll see the video. So, I'm gonna look like a poser. It's okay. But
It's
no, I
okay.
love that kind of stuff. If I could sell anything outside of cards, which I do, it's the vintage sportswear. Like we found
Yeah.
in Don actually found this a 1990s King Griffey Jr., single stitch 97 t-shirt in the bins when we were in Ohio. She
Nice.
brought it up to me because I'm like, just show me cool sports stuff. She didn't know it was 90s. She didn't know it was single stitch. And I'm like, yeah, that's a really good shirt, Don.
Yeah.
Like 70, $80 probably. So
Nice.
there's stuff like that everywhere, man.
So the the best sports card that I ever got out at the flea market was a 1997, 1998 Upper Deck Michael Jordan Diamond Dimensions out of 100. I paid
Oh,
500 bucks. 500 bucks. I got it graded, and that one is a hard card to get a high grade on because it has all the edges. And it
oh
graded
yeah.
out at 9.5. And at the time, the population for 9.5 was two, me and another guy. I listed it on eBay and I sold it for 3,500 bucks within 24 hours to some guy in North Dakota. And just for curiosity's sake, during kind of like the bubble of COVID, I think that card got all the way up to like 30 or 40,000 bucks. But
Oh
I
yeah.
did fine on it. That was one of my biggest flips ever, was buying that 97, 98 Michael Jordan Diamond Dimensions at the flea market.
There is, I mean, just for people, if you're out there at garage sales or flea markets and you're looking at cards, like the late 90s basketball numbered stuff is always worth looking up. We'll put it that
Yeah.
way. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you get the right players, Jordan, Kobe Bryant,
Kobe.
those guys, like Jordan stuff, even just regular inserts that aren't numbered. They may be not short printed, but they might have been 1 in 3 boxes. And some of those, like the Soul of the Game or Jambalaya, stuff like that, that you
Mm-hmm.
may find that aren't numbered could be worth thousands of dollars. So,
Yeah. And then you might stumble across some like precious metal gems, and holy Toledo,
yeah,
you might be able to retire and buy a house off of one of those
I
things.
remember seeing those back in the day, like, at card shows and stuff before they got as hot as they. And I'm always speculating in the partners of those cards from that era, but that is the big daddy. There's a lot of cards I have that I find that are numbered 50 or 100, kind of like the precious metal gems, but they just don't have from that era. They just
Yeah.
don't have the cachet, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That set is just iconic, and people love how it looks. So
Yeah. I mean, dude, I could talk sports cards all day, and I
I
could
know,
talk
and
to you all day. I think like when we do meet, you and it's contrary to a lot of people's opinion because they only see me on here performing a job and a duty. My personality is much like yours. I like to joke around, I like to have fun, but I'm on here performing a job, so people see me performing a
we
job.
got you,
So
we got you a little lively in a couple different trash to cash episodes, so
that's
we were
right.
able
So
to break through a
yeah,
little.
yeah. So when you move down here, we'll have to hit some flea markets. We'll have to hit Webster together. Webster is tough because it's very big and there's a lot of people out there that know what they're doing. It's almost
Oh yeah.
more luck. You have to be at the right table as something is getting put on the table at Webster, but it's still fun to go still see everyone. Whenever I go there, I see Paul, Philly Flipper, and the dog. I see Rod. I see Dave. I saw a lot of guys out there. So I'm sure I'll see you up there within the next year or so, and we'll
Yeah,
hang
man.
out and we'll talk and
Sure.
shake hands for the first time. But I do appreciate you guys for inviting me on the podcast. It was very fun. I like joking around, and I like your reseller adjacent podcast. I just like listening to reseller stuff, even if you guys don't even talk about reselling. I just like to listen to resellers talk about not talking about reselling. I'm in. So
Well, people may not know it about me, but like I've been listening to what you guys have been doing with your podcast for years.
mhm.
But it's like they're two different things. Like sometimes you're in the business mindset where you need to like
Yeah,
level up your game, and sometimes you just need something
just need to
fun. Maybe you're
chill.
still working, but you need
Yeah.
something a little lighter. It's like I always like
Mhm.
to think of this. Sometimes I'm listening to a podcast. Sometimes I just want to listen to like Blink 182 while I work.
That's it. Yeah.
Sometimes I just have a different mindset for a different
Mhm.
moment. So I think
I'm
we
I'm
feel two different.
100% on board with that. So you guys have the Trash to Cash podcast. I listen every single week when it comes out. I enjoy it. I like it.
I
I like all
apologize
the
for everything I've
hijinks.
ever said.
I appreciate that, man. So thank you for jumping on. Congratulations on the big sale. And hopefully you have good luck moving over, and you gotta stay cool, but we'll see you out there. And hopefully we can find some cool stuff, and hopefully
We'll
you
see.
like it in Florida.
Visiting, I've loved it, and I think I'm going to enjoy it. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Thanks again for jumping on. Be
Thanks,
good.
brother.
Thank you.